shitbag or no? We don't know.
I don't know if we're talking about the same shooting. The hooker, the one I'm talking about is the black guy that they shot
in the mall,
who was leaving the mall because he had his fucking gun out.
He's walking around with his gun out?
No, there was a shooting inside the mall.
Got it.
Police responded. Everybody's running out of the mall, and old boy has his gun out, and he's running out of the mall. So the cops shoot him. The police department came out. I mean, they didn't hesitate. They came out. They apologized and said, "We are 100% sorry that this happened. The officer that responded just saw an individual with a gun, thought that it was the shooter." I mean, the police department came 100% clean. The family kind of didn't. Like, all the pictures that they posted initially was a dude in uniform. And I kind of just glanced at him like, man, he was a Marine? That sucks. But I didn't open the picture. Once I opened the picture, it was actually a dude in an Army uniform. Well, but then the Army comes out a day later and they're like, hey, this guy never was in the Army. He made it to basic infantry training for the Army and was discharged from service. They didn't say why he was discharged. They said he was just discharged from service. So now the parents are putting up a bunch of pictures where he's not in uniform, but I don't know. You know, what are you going to do? You take that chance. If you're carrying a gun and you present the gun, even to stop a crime, you know, the Russians are running through the mall with a nuke and you shoot them. If you're standing around with a gun after that, you are taking a chance that some security guy is going to blast you. Guys get, you know, New York.
They teach that in class. I mean,
yeah, but New York undercover cops get shot all the time for doing that. Like the
cop on cop.
Yeah, cop on cop. Because, you know, when you start putting adrenaline into the mix, and I'm standing there and I got nothing that says authority on me with a gun, there's a good chance you're gonna get shot. Hell, the reality is the civilian shootings turn out better than the law enforcement shootings.
If you run with your gun out,
civilian.
Yeah, there's no reason for you to be moving around
with
your
gun out, running at the cop.
The civilian's usually going to be there when that happens. A cop is responding, and it's like James said. He goes, the first thing they say is gun. Like even in academy, they don't say fight, they don't say fire, they yell gun. So I mean, you're conditioned from day one. Gun is
the problem.
Yeah, it's bad.
Gun's the threat.
Yeah, I watched at least the beginning of that.
What I'm just saying is like there's a lot of in recent days or in recent years, there's been a lot of self-defense shootings in Texas where multiple people have pulled guns. And it's always the bad guy that gets blasted. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of, what's going on? Who's got, what? Oh, okay. All right, let's go.
Good guy?
Yeah, good guy. Are you, what? So, I'm sure, you know, but you're right, it's just the training. It's the training is the gun is the threat. The what?
The shooting, the active shooter at the VA that turned out to be a drill.
Oh, was it a drill? I didn't know that.
But I guess there's a bunch of interviews out there with people working there. They're like, they never said it was a fucking drill, and that's why, like Amanda was telling me about it. And I go, well, think about it. Would you rather than believe would you want them to know it's a drill? They're not gonna actually do the drill correctly. The
other thing too is somebody may have said gun. Like I thought I saw him with a gun.
And that's the other thing too. If I whisper something in your ear and you tell Gabby, you know it's getting fucked up at Gabby's point. 5, 10, 15 down the road.
Yeah.
We're like red squirrel. Yeah. Gabby's gonna change it to purple sky. I mean, it's Gabby.
And anytime there's a telephone thing, there's a point where it's done on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, even if it's not though.
Yeah. What do you think, Sweeney? I mean, I know you don't like guns.
No,
that you don't like guns, and that you're very, anti-carry.
Yeah, just like you.
Oh, I hate guns.
know you do.
I hate guns. And as a matter of fact, I hate guns so much that if you have a gun that you don't want, that you feel like you need to turn in, contact me. I will handle all that paperwork for you. Just contact me with the gun that you don't like. I'll come get it,
Nasty gun.
and I will take care of it for you. Lock it up somewhere nice and safe.
I'll take the ammo if they don't want that. I mean,
Yeah. Ammo?
it's
You got some
dangerous.
ammo laying around? It's
It's
dangerous.
a fire hazard.
When we met Justin, Justin said when we had the first burn pile before the party, there was foxes running around, and the foxes were killing chickens. So Colin's like, "Let's go up there. And we'll just sit and wait, and we'll kill the chickens." And he was telling Justin, "You got a gun with you?" Justin's like, He's like, "You got a rifle?" He's like, "No, I got a Glock." Colin's like, "What Glock do you have?" He's like, "Oh man, I don't know the numbers. I just have all of them." I'm like, "I don't think you have all of them." He goes, "I have all of them." And he opened a drawer, whole truck bed, and he had he had the Glock museum in there. What was there, 60, 70 fucking Glocks he had in there?
I had all of them that day. That was in 2014.
He's literally like, "I have all of them."
And I can't remember
Like,
what I
come on.
did, what I had them for that day. I had them for a reason.
He had the whole fucking Glock museum, the traveling Glock museum.
You just throw the you shoot till the magazine's empty and then throw it down on the ground and grab another one.
I can't remember what I had them for that day, but yeah, that'd be a guess one out there. I got a gun ball.
I had to keep buying Glocks because I didn't know the magazine came out. Comes out? What?
Man, people get so mad. Man.
I know they do.
Like every comment, like, "We love Jeff, but he's so wrong about the Glock thing."
Glocks are terrible.
Fanboys.
I know. Fanboys.
They get so
Oh, let's
upset.
jump on the bandwagon.
I like all of them. I like all of them. As long as they work.
Love them all.
Most of the time it's the Indian, not the Arrow. I mean, very rarely.
Unless it's a
an Arrow.
Ravens or a Jennings. Unless it's a Raven or a Jennings. Then maybe
Arrow.
Maybe the Arrow's the problem.
There's a lot of people.
I know there's somebody that's got a gold hand. There's somebody got a gold handled
High Point.
high point. A lot of people get killed with high points.
That's what I'm saying.
Those are terrible.
I wonder what the correlation between tried to kill and actually did.
Well, that was the thing that Trump got in trouble for. That most people don't understand is, truth be told, handgun is like a terrible
Manstopper, yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible weapon. But, like when he was campaigning, he said 4,000 people, 4,300 some odd people were shot in Chicago.
Of course they were.
And the Democrats were like, "Oh, he's totally full of shit," and blah, blah, blah. Well, they were talking about how many people actually were killed, and he was talking about all the people that actually get shot.
And most of those shootings are not just upstanding folks. I mean,
No, yeah,
if
they're
you
not.
take, if you take suicide out of it, and then you take fucking shitbag on shitbag out of it, you got fucking what, 1% left?
Here's the problem with the gun debate is, if everybody's concerned about the homicide number, you can actually identify the places where those homicides, most of those homicides are, down to 3 cities, guys. You can identify where most of those homicides are committed in 3 cities. By the way, Democrats, you control them, so why don't you do something about it?
Inner cities, low income.
Yeah, you can identify those places. So you could do intervention in those places and control those homicides. I mean, if you put as unfortunate as it sounds, if you put a cop or a Marine on every corner in whatever town, instantly the murder rate would plummet in those areas. They don't want to do that. Why? Because it's all part of keeping you a slave to the man.
I would arm those police officers with whistles.
With whistles.
Whistles.
Or wooden guns.
Whistles. Has there been a wooden gun?
In the other guys?
Oh, gotcha.
He
Yeah,
gives
when
them a
they
wooden gun.
took
He gives
his
them a
gun away,
wooden
yeah.
Takes Gator's gat away.
Give him a whistle.
No,
Not even a whistle with a ball, just a
Toot toot. Gives him a whistle later on. I'm taking your wooden gun.
I don't understand the mindset with all the people trying to, I guess, what do you say, overturn the Second Amendment or rewrite it, or I don't even understand their. How do you think that way? Like, if we make it a law or whatever they want to do, does that mean the bad guys
because they don't
are going to
want to
follow
address,
the law?
they don't want to address the problem. They want to attack the fucking.
Yeah, they want to attack the inanimate object. They don't want to address
And
the
they-
problem that they've created in their
And
neighborhoods.
they're not looking at real numbers. They're looking at the fucking numbers. They're watching literally the news. So
Like literally, those
it's fucking programmed.
Even with
Those-
the worst numbers there are,
those
you're still
communities,
better off armed.
those communities themselves. If the Black Panthers stood up and said no one's getting killed in Chicago this year, the Black Panthers could make that happen. They could make that happen. They could put they know who the crews are. They could put that pressure on there and make that happen. But they don't, because it's money generation. The only reason why we allow gangs to roam the streets of those cities is because they are generating funds.
And spending it.
And spending it, yeah. They're
Keeping the
generating
economy
funds and
afloat.
spending it.
Which means fucking tax money.
Mm-hmm. Which means tax money, which means we could handle those cities no problem. They just don't want to. Anyways, that's my spiel.
It's just money spent.
If you live in Chicago, I'm sorry. But even Chicago, you can go to Chicago and they're gentrified areas. Gentrification is a good way to lower your homicide rate. There are gentrified areas in Chicago where you can go and, Gabby could walk half naked down the street and people wouldn't even blink an eye. Because they've gentrified it.
I know the gun laws there are very strict.
Very strict.
I'm not exactly sure
And
what
yet
they
the
are, but I know they're
murder
very
rates are
strict.
fucking.
Yeah, very strict. Like I think I want to say NBC or it was NBC or CBS a couple of years ago. Had been at least 3 years ago. They did a around the nation buying guns. And so they went to all these different places and like tried to buy a gun. And a lot of places they got shut down because unfortunately most people don't realize this. If you go to a gun store and try and buy a gun, you have to do a background check. So if you're a turd, you're not going to be able to buy a gun there. But they did this, and then they went to Chicago. They went to Chicago, and they're interviewing these 10-year-old kids about gun violence. And these, unfortunately, these 10-year-old kids are like, oh yeah, this, so-so got killed over there, and so-so got shot over there. But they're talking about this.
Can you get us a gun?
And they're like, well, how hard is it for you to get a gun? And he's like, well, this 10-year-old kid's like, I'll go to the park right now and get you a gun. And she's like, what? He goes, we can get guns in like 5 minutes. Right? Over at the park.
Legally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100% illegally, but faster than any non-violent person that lives in that area would be able to go buy a gun.
The question though is, where did those guns come from?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of them come from down here.
Which is why they want to ban guns.
Yeah, a lot of them come from down here. Almost all of them, not almost all of them, but there's a lot that are theft. So people not securing their guns properly. There's a lot of theft of firearms, but then there's also a lot of shady people that will buy guns,
Straw purchase,
and then take them up and sell them. But once again, that's illegal. And if they started cracking down on it, like, for example, if Chicago PD went to that park and arrested everybody that was selling those guns and then squeezed them, they could find out who is bringing those guns in there, and then they could arrest them because that is what they're doing is illegal.
How much is that's going to get found? How many of those guns were in impound? How many of those guns were in fucking lockup? How many of those guns were put back on the street by law enforcement or fucking federal agents or whatever? I mean, how about the fast? Somebody was asking it. I've seen it. Several dudes ask, "What's your opinion on the Fast and Furious shit?"
As far as what illegal shit we were doing, Fast and Furious was a completely illegal.
A bunch of guns came back onto the street in the United States into
all the
criminal
guns
hands that the feds fucking put into circulation. The law enforcement put those guns out there. So how many times has that happened? That's just the one time they got fucking caught doing it.
The number one,
Just like
all the guns
selling
you see
cocaine, like CIA selling cocaine or fucking crack in Los Angeles. Like, that shit happened.
all the guns not all of them, mind you, but a good majority of the guns that you saw that went across the border from the United States were legally purchased and sent across the border with the ATF's approval. Meaning, gun stores were contacting the ATF and saying, hey, this dude is here and he wants to buy 25 AK-47s. We don't want to sell them to him. What's the deal? And ATF was contacting those stores and saying, hey, not only are you going to sell them to them, but we're going to come in and we're going to videotape the sale. And so they would videotape the sale, but they would not arrest. They would let those guns go across the border. You could say there was two. You could say that the reason is because we don't care if the cartels kill each other. But that, if you look at that time period, that was the time period where we started the war, where we were taking the leadership out to create this vacuum that's going on right now. So tactically, I would say it was on purpose. But they did a lot of dumb shit. Like the head of the ATF in Dallas, Texas, they go into Juarez, the Mexicans, and raid the #1 drug dealer in that area. They bust him, pull him out. In his nightstand, next to his bed, is a Glock 19 that paperworked right straight directly back to the head of the ATF in fucking Dallas, Texas. Meaning he gave that gun to a known dirtbag. Crazy
Or
shit
it was
like
stolen from him.
No.
In which case he didn't.
And it was not stolen from him.
Which would also be a crime not to report.
100% was not stolen from him because after they identified it, the Obama administration tried to smother this and say, hey, that's not real. He came up with a document that said that he sold the gun. Well, not required in the state of Texas, so the document was definitely done after the fact. And what happened to him? They immediately promoted him and moved him out of Texas. So he was rewarded for leaving his, no matter what, a law enforcement, I don't know about Camden PD, but I will say Camden PD. If they raid somebody's house in Camden PD, let's say the FBI raided a known drug dealer here, and they pulled out the chief of police's gun from that drug dealer, and the chief of police had never reported it stolen or missing, period, he would be in serious trouble. He would be lucky if he was still law enforcement. He'd probably be lucky if he didn't do any jail time. But, whatever. It's the government. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Professional courtesy.
Yeah. Well, the FBI ain't going to give professional courtesy to nobody down here. No. The idea is to crush the law enforcement. They're going to do two things. One, they're going to buy the law enforcement agencies down here. So that's what all that task force money is. They give you a bunch of money and a bunch of gear. So you'll be like, hey man, the feds are the greatest thing on sliced bread. Or they're going to come in and they're just going to crush your law enforcement agents, saying you're racial profiling or you're doing something illegal, and they'll crush those because they actually need to get rid of Southern law enforcement. Because the issue there is Southern law enforcement tends to be more on the right and less on the left. It's always a Southern sheriff when they say we're going to ban guns that goes, fuck you, I'm not going to enforce it. So they need to crush these agencies.
Idaho, fucking Colorado and Montana.
Yeah, there's still some Wild West people out there. I mean, in the West, there's still some that will say, hey, we're not going to enforce it. The problem is, when it's something like that. So I have a really good friend who lives in Colorado, and in the district he lives in, the sheriff is like, because they banned high capacity magazines. So the sheriff's like, I don't give a shit about that. If you're a law-abiding citizen, I don't give a fuck how many rounds your magazine holds. So you, as Joe Citizen, that has a 30-round magazine that you're using in a completely legal fashion.
Is there a magazine capacity ban in Colorado?
Yes, that's why Magpul had to move.
Oh no shit! That's right. That's
why Magpul had to move.
Where did they move to?
I don't know.
Montana,
Texas, maybe. Texas. Montana. I don't know where they moved. That's why they had to move. So
I didn't know they're still in business after Travis and Coastal left.
Yeah, I don't think they do any gun stuff. So if you're a law-abiding citizen and sheriff Sheriff Dumfrey is like, hey, you can have whatever the fuck you want. I don't care.
Dumfrey.
I don't know if you're here under, if this needs to be low pro. You know what I'm saying?
Profile.
So if the sheriff makes you feel that you can use that you can carry that magazine around and use that to go hunt coyotes or whatever you're doing in the wilds of Colorado.
Not a problem until you put it on Facebook.
It's not a problem until, I don't know, you forget about it 5 years later and they elect a new sheriff. Or it's not a problem until you get pulled over by state police who doesn't give two shits about what the sheriff says. You know what I'm saying? So you create a comfort zone that's not real. I lived in California for the longest time I had standard capacity magazines that held 75 rounds. So, I mean, I had all of that stuff that they are currently saying is illegal. It's part of the reason why I had to flee the state. But same thing, it was out of sight, out of mind. But at any time, if they would have came in and been like, oh, is that a 30-round magazine? You're fucked. There's nothing you can do about it. Like, they just busted a guy just recently in California who had 2 AR-15s that were registered. So they were legally registered, meaning he put the paperwork in for the assault weapons ban and all that stuff. His brother that did not live with him made some comments at a school, so law enforcement decided to raid his brother's house and his parents' house to look for guns. When they went to the brother's house, he had his 2 AR-15s. They were locked up like they are supposed to be in the state of California. And he had, I want to say he had 90 AR mags. He was in the Army. So having a bunch of magazines is it's how it happens. He was former Army, moved from Texas to California, had all this stuff. And they busted him for the magazines. They didn't even care about the rifles. I get it. I get it. You're so dumb that you think that a rifle won't work if you take the magazines away from it. But the magazine is the easiest part of that whole system to get together. So it's just ridiculous to think that if I have an assault rifle in the state of California, if I put all the paperwork through, I give you all that bullshit that Department of Justice in California wants, fingerprints, picture, the 90 fucking other bullshit hoops you have to jump through. And then you're like, you can't have the magazine. I have the gun. I have the thing that matters. The thing that really matters is the gun. I can, what do you call that printer now that everybody has?
3D printer.
I can 3D print magazines. So it's just.
Are they 3D print mags?
Yeah, they're 3D. You can 3D print. So it's just stupid, but I don't know what else.
So he got arrested for.
He got arrested.
Like what did he get?
He got arrested for the magazines.
Is that a felony?
The issue is it's a soft felony. So there are felony you can get a felony in California that doesn't correlate anywhere else. So it's what they call a soft felony because it only counts in California. The problem for him is it's each magazine.
Oh,
so
90.
And he had 90. So each magazine, I think it's a 10-year minimum. It might be a 5 or 10-year minimum in California
jail time
for the magazines. Yes,
not using them, just owning them.
So they're like, hey, okay, you're going to go to jail for 90 years, right?
For owning magazines.
For having these magazines. You're going to go to jail.
Victimless crime. There was no victim.
Yeah, you're going to go to jail for 90 years for having these magazines.
Wow.
I doubt that is how this played out. I'll bet money that if I look this up later on, which I probably won't because John, there's a lot of work to do. That when it got time to go to court, that the state of California did a plea bargain with him. They said, hey, you cop to the felony. We keep the guns and the magazines. You go home.
And you can't own guns. And a lot of times they'll take their assets too. So
God, that sucks, man.
Yeah, he'll lose his car and a house too.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing with assault rifles.
What made the magazines illegal?
They passed the state law.
But what about stuff you already have?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you own.
Yeah, there's no grandfather.
So you literally lose.
For example, and that's the example. Like I was saying, I owned assault rifles in the state of California that have been registered for 10 years. So I registered those assault rifles.
10 years.
Those assault rifles came with the high capacity magazines that make it an assault rifle. That's part of what makes it an assault rifle is the standard capacity magazines. They passed another law that said, hey, we were just kidding, those magazines are no longer legal. Now, in theory, so I'm sure Cal Guns and a bunch of people are trying to sue the shit out of California because in theory the state cannot deny you property that they've already deemed legal. They have to compensate. They have to compensate you for it. So meaning, if the state tomorrow said you can't have AR-15s, they can't confiscate them. They have to pay you for those guns
Because you legally
purchased them in the the place you. So they have to give you an opportunity to sell those guns back to the state. In theory,
but that could be a reason for them to search, right? If they knew you had those weapons and they found one extra magazine, well then all that's screwed, right?
yeah,
All of it. You got 10 registered rifles.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we technically need to search to make sure that's all you have.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an extra one. I don't
Yep.
care who gave it to you or why it's here. Felony, all this is ours now.
Yeah.
Time to make some money.
Yeah.
They even have like pre-banned mags, so there was still mags out there, but they were stamped military law enforcement only. Those things were circulating all over the place.
So if you bought one of those,
So you could have
Then
your
that's a
old,
felony.
you could have your old
Yeah,
30
it would be
for a long
illegal.
time.
It would be illegal for you to have a magazine,
like a $20 magazine.
like a $20
Yeah.
magazine, during the assault weapons ban.
Lose all your rights, fucking go to jail shit. But you step into Arizona or you step into Las Vegas,
Yeah.
it's fine there. And it's just a California thing.
So,
We all
so
live there.
for example, that guy he's got that soft felony in California. So he agreed to the felony, the assault weapon charge. If he was to move to Arizona, there's no correlating law. Meaning Arizona does not have a law that says you can't own an assault rifle.
So they don't
So
recognize it.
That they won't even recognize that felony. They'll be like, fuck California.
Yeah.
But the problem is, when he goes to purchase a firearm,
It's gonna show up.
it's going to show up. So what it does is, when he goes to buy a gun, even though the state doesn't recognize it, that is going to show up on his record. So when the NICS process comes back, his NICS process is going to come back denied. He will have to appeal it.
Wow.
And once he sends all the paperwork and shows that this was a charge that doesn't correlate to California, then they'll give him a gun. But now he's been waiting, however long it takes. Yeah.
Probably like a
So it's just
Class three.
it's California just trying to fuck with people, trying to
crazy.
ruin their lives, because that's what California does.
They're not the
whether-
only state, right?
Yeah,
There's
they're
a
not
few
the
other
only
states that's passed some bans on.
I don't- if you live in-
the past couple of years,
If you live in New York, I don't consider you a citizen of the
like
United
New York,
States.
New Jersey, was
Or
it Massachusetts or
Baltimore.
Maine? One of those, right?
Yeah.
DC.
One of the upper East Coast.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was. Or was it Rhode Island? Or it may have been multiple.
yeah.
So
I don't know.
you just named a bunch of places nobody should be anyway.
It's cold up there.
Yeah.